All right, Final Four. And no, I'm not talking about March Madness. I'm talking about we're down to our Final Four games here, starting with TCU and Houston. We've got TCU 7.5-point road favorite, 62.5 the total in this game. Wow, you talk about teams I'm not thrilled to back. I'm not a big Dana Holgorsen guy, as you know. He lucked out with 3 interceptions in one quarter from Frank Harris in the UTSA game, or else they could have lost that game, and they got outstatted as well, out-yarded. And then against Rice, and say what you will, they could give him credit for battling back, but you should never have been in a position where you were down 28-0, to the Rice Owls last week in that game against Rice. Now, credit to them, they didn't quit. The Houston team, but still, I mean, in a situation like that, you can't expect to win a game, when you're down by that big. Now, they nearly did, obviously, but Rice hangs on 43-41. What an absolute crazy wild finish and an incredible overtime as well, if you watch that game. Same old issues for Houston. I'm not sold on their defense. That's a problem. Mm-hmm. And what is TCU? I have no idea right now. They are somewhere between not as good as last year, clearly, or maybe way down from last year. Which is it? Are they way down, or are they just, Colorado's looked awesome now. They followed it up against Nebraska. Is TCU just, a little bit down, but not a huge drop off from last year? Chandler Morris, I still think can play. I think he's a solid quarter. It won't be as difficult against this Houston defense, I think, for him. They beat Nicholls State 41-6 last week, but again, it doesn't tell you shit. You got to play someone decent, and say what you will about Houston. They got flaws, but at least they're, a decent football team. I don't really love either side. I don't trust TCU laying more than a touchdown on the road, but I don't want Houston. I don't trust Houston. I don't like Dana Holgorsen as a coach all that much. I'll be quite honest with you. Just bad, not prepared to play against Rice, down 28-0 early in that game. That's on the coach, not having his team ready to go. And credit to them for battling back and forcing overtime, which they deserve credit for that. But that's bad coaching when you are not prepared to play that game and you're down 28-0. So I'm not trusting Houston either. I think the over is what I'm looking at, or nothing at all. I could see both offenses moving it here. What do you think, Con?
Yeah, that's what I wish it was a little bit lower, like 58. I'd be all over it, but I think there's points. How can you not, in this game? Can Houston do? And I don't know what you get with Holgorsen. This guy, he's been a fade for me, that, Babano. And now is this dog at home? It's like, man, I want to jump on them, but I just can't do it. They had penalties. I just think they're not well coached. How he's kept the job by just going 6-6 is, it's just crazy. He needs to go. I don't know what it just needs to be something different at this point. In TCU, Colorado scored a bunch. I think TCU will be able to put it on Houston. So maybe a TCU team total if you don't want to lay the points here, just the over like you were mentioning, because that's what I circled last night.
Yeah, and keep in mind, he's got good numbers this year, and he's very experienced for Houston at quarterback. Donovan Smith, the Texas Tech transfer, 4 touchdowns, 1 interception, 61% completions this year. Very experienced, and I think that's going to help. And like I say, I know one thing. I know I'm not confident in how good or bad the offense is for TCU, but I'm very confident this defense is really bad because they got shredded by Colorado. They weren't even that great last year. Think about it. This magical year they get to the national championship game wasn't because of the defense. Defense wasn't even that good last year for TCU.
Yeah, they had spots, and kind of, but you're right. I mean, they won a lot of high scoring games.
Yep. So over to me looks like the best way to go.